Okay, it's Albert Jackson, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I built my computer, and hopefully it'll help you maybe when you're building yours. Uh, First of all, let's just get started on why I started building my own computer. Uh, I did it mostly just for the fun of it, you know. It's just one of those things where you say, "Hey, I built this thing. Look at it. It's running great. And I love it." Just to experience that, knowing that you put something together and made it work, is just something you have to experience yourself before you know what I'm talking about. And I did it also because it gave me a lot of knowledge of what's going on in this fast-paced technological world. It's just unbelievable how fast things change and move. Used to it'd be a year before you'd see any kind of changes. Now it's monthly. It's just unbelievable. So it helps me to keep up with what's going on. And I wanted to know how to make videos like this, so that's how I got started anyway, building my own computer. Now the way I chose my parts is just research after research after research, different sites on the internet. I used Google to find a lot of sites. If you want to go through the same thing I did, that's fine, but if you want to take a shortcut and look at these sites, I guarantee you, if you just look at these simple sites that I'm showing you right now, you'll be able to build your own computer. Once you find your hardware, like you decide what you want, and go to places like Amazon and Newegg and check and see what kind of part it is that you decide you might want to put together to make a computer. Then go to Tom's Hardware and then ask around in those different forums. They've got one for about every part on a computer you can think of, from the case all the way to the a power supply and anything in between. They've got it. And you go there and you just ask somebody in those forums, and there's always experts hanging around in there, and then other people that's all they do is go to these sites, and they're real knowledgeable about what they're saying and talking about, and they'll help you deciding on which parts to get also. High-Tech Legion is a good place to go. They've got a lot of reviews on a lot of different products, and they go into detail on the specifications, and they have good videos on how to install some of these parts. And it really helped me a lot when I was choosing, different parts for my computer. And on YouTube, you find a lot of different places there. Now you got to be really, you got to look at a lot of video. I looked at a lot of videos, and I narrowed it down to one place that I go, that I finally wound up calling home for my videos to learn things. That was a site that is run by a guy named Kerry Holzman. I think it's VetTech or something like that. His company is called VetTech. But if you type in Kerry Holzman, you go to, he's got all kinds of videos on how to fix certain problems on your computer, to how to actually build a computer from ground up. I'll tell you, Kerry, I watched your videos, I subscribed to your channel, and buddy, I did it by watching your videos and knowing that I could do it myself. Now here's the parts I chose. For the CPU, I chose Intel. Not saying anything bad against AMD, it's just Intel was more suited for what I was going to use my computer for. You may want to choose an AMD. It depends on what you're going to do with your computer. But I chose this because it's good for things like I like to do: watching video, rendering video, editing video, things like that. Because it's got the quad core, which makes it a little bit better on doing things such as that. And it's a fast processor, and it's got hyper-threading technology. But that's the reason I chose it. Motherboard, I chose a Gigabyte motherboard. It's a GA-Z87X-D3H. I chose this mainly because of the features it had on it that I wanted. It's upgradable, it's durable. My processor was not, it was what they call a locked processor. You can't overclock it. I'm not into overclocking because Overclocking is, I think, just more of a game in itself. But I know there's people that say there's reasons for doing it, and that's good for them, that's fine, but I just chose not to do that. This motherboard is capable of doing that, but I didn't choose it for overclocking. I chose it because I figure if you're going to overclock a processor, the motherboard's going to be a lot more durable parts on it because it's going to be made for overclocking. But this had upgradability because it's got 4 slots for RAM. It's an 1150 socket board. It's got VGA, DVI, and HDMI outputs for your video. It's got the 3x16 slot for your graphics cards. It's got the Z87 chipset, which is a good chipset. And it's got 6 ports for your SATA connections for your hard drives and peripherals. It's just an all-around good motherboard, and it's one of the best rated. At the time, it was. The RAM I chose is HyperX, Kingston HyperX Blue. It's dual channel, 8 gigabytes, 16 megahertz. I chose this because when I first started fiddling around with computers back in 1995, the first thing I noticed was it had a Kingston RAM in it. And when I was looking around for my RAM, I said, well, you know, they've been around 20 years now. They must know what they're doing. And I didn't make a bad decision. This RAM is really, really fast, and it serves its purpose for me. For the power supply, the heart of the computer, I chose a Corsair CX430M. It's not got a lot of wattage, but I didn't need a lot of wattage. For what I do, it's more than enough. I chose a modular because I'm fanatical about hiding wires, and I didn't have as many wires to hide in my case. I didn't need to hide wires in my case because I chose a case that didn't have a window. I'm neat that way. I like wires in their place and everything looking neat. But it's a really quiet power supply. It's Haswell supported, and it's 80 plus certified, so it does exactly what I want it to do. Now my case I chose that I just talked about is the Antec 302. This is probably the only decision I made that I have second thoughts about now. This is a very sturdy case. I've not got a problem with the sturdiness of it. I had a problem with the layout of the case, mainly with the mounting point for the SSD drive. If you look where I'm pointing now, the SSD drive mounts here. Well, my motherboard, when you install it, takes up the slots at the bottom 2 mounting points for the SSD. So if I ever wanted to remove my SSD drive, I have to take off the motherboard, which in turn makes me have to take a lot of parts apart to get to, which basically tells you have to take your computer apart to remove the SSD drive. The other part, which is kind of picky on my part, I guess, but the power for the motherboard, the input for the power is right in this area, and there's no hole up here for when you route your cable through this hole here to the back. You can't come back through the case to where in other words, you can't hide that wire by running it through the back of the case out to this back in through the case right here. What I had to do is I had to loosen up the fan on the top and run the wire from the power supply back up under here to hide it a little bit. It's not a big deal, but I'm picky, I guess. But it is a good case, and I'm not really complaining all that much, just a little. That's just me. But for the SSD, I chose a Crucial M500. It's a 120 gigabyte solid state drive. I chose it because it was on sale for $59.95 mainly, but because it had excellent reviews on all the sites I went, and it's not the fastest. I think the Samsung probably 840 EVO is probably the fastest out there, but it's plenty fast enough for me. When I first installed this solid state drive and put the operating system on, I was going to go into my BIOS and change my uh, uh, boot sequence back, and it kept booting into Windows before I could get hit the delete key to get into the BIOS. That's how fast this thing booted into Windows. But it doesn't do that now. It takes, I think last time I timed it, about 32 seconds from the time I turn it on to get into Windows, because I have got a lot of programs. I probably could take some of them off on the start menu, but I choose to leave them there because I'm just too lazy to go in there and start them up each time. But anyway, it's a good solid state drive. For a mechanical drive, for my saving all my files and stuff like that, I chose the Western Digital Black 7200 RPM. It's got 64 megabytes of cache, and this thing is really fast. Probably the fastest thing you're going to get besides a SSD, but not quite as fast as SSD. But the only complaints I saw when I purchased this was that people said it was kind of loud when it ran, but I haven't heard that. Maybe my hearing's just going bad as I get older, but I haven't heard those. It runs quiet to me, so. But it runs really good. It's a good hard drive. I'll probably add another 2 terabyte hard drive later on. I think I'll just get a green this time because I don't need the speed for that. It's just for storing files anyway. Now for my DVD burner, I chose ASUS. It was on sale at the time when I bought it for, I think, for $16.99 or $17.99, something like that. But I mainly got this just to play a few games on and to install my operating system, so I didn't need anything fancy. It does the job. It is a little bit loud, but it's only when it's starting up that I hear a lot of noise out of it. Other than that, it's fine. You're going to hear a little bit of noise out of all DVD players. But for my operating system, I chose Windows 7, basically because it's got the start button in the left corner at the bottom. I just didn't want to give it up, and I know there's a way to put that thing on Windows 8, but I don't want to fool with it, and I'm just old school that way. Windows 8.1 looks more like a smartphone setup. It was probably why the people that like it so much is because it is like a smartphone. I've used it and I don't have any real complaints about it. I just like Windows 7. I'm more familiar with that type. It's more like XP, and I like XP. I think every other time they come out with operating system is better than if you skip in between, you come out with a better one. I didn't like Windows Vista. I had XP. I didn't get Windows Vista. I skipped it. I went to Windows 7, and then I'll probably skip over Windows 8 and get whatever they come out with next. Anyway, that's picky on my part, I guess, but that's what I like. And I chose a BenQ monitor. It's a 24-inch monitor. It's a TN panel monitor. I got it for $129.95 at Newegg on sale. This monitor is unbelievable for $129. You just can't beat it. I know it's not an IPS monitor. IPS is supposed to be a lot better. I know that, but I don't look at my computer or monitor from an angle. I don't know why anybody would, but they say it's better from looking at angles on it. I guess if you had 2 or 3 people looking at it, they might be sitting from an angle looking at the screen, but I'm the only one that looks at mine as far as I know. And it is a good monitor. It's one of those things you have to see to understand how great it really is. Now let's get to how I installed the software on my computer. You may want to choose a different way of going about this. This is the way I chose, and it works fine for me. If you have a better way, more power to you, but I've been using this computer now for 6 months and never had a problem. And this is the way I did it. I downloaded my drivers first from the vendor, Gigabyte, and it's easy to do. If you have another computer, I suggest you do this. I used an old crippled up Dell 2004 model Inspiration computer, and downloaded my drivers onto a USB drive. And I had this done before I even bought my motherboard. That's how far ahead I was thinking. But anyway, these are the ones you'll need. You'll need chipset, you need USB 3.0, you need your LAN drivers for your internet, your SATA and RAID control. You'll need drivers for that. You'll need the drivers for your VGA, your video, and you'll need your drivers for your audio files. So you'll need those drivers. Those are the ones necessary. There's also utilities you can get. I'm not going to go into detail about that. Those are choices you'll make. There's some good ones out there, and there's a few of them you'll want to, like there's a internet accelerator driver you can put on. There's I think a rapid storage driver you can use. That's up to you. You can choose whatever you want to there. But my suggestion to you is don't hook your internet up until after you've installed your operating system and your drivers. If you do that, then Windows is going to immediately start looking for drivers for your motherboard, and you don't want Windows to pick your drivers for you. You want your drivers to come from your vendors. That's just a little heads up for you. Okay, before you start installing your operating system, you want to make a couple of changes in your BIOS. To do this, you turn your computer on, hold down the delete key or some kind of function key. You can find that, whatever key that is, in your manual. Most of the time it's your delete key. But when you turn your computer on, just start punching your delete key over and over again. It should take you into your BIOS. And you need to make 3 changes. I've got 2 changes on this little notepad here I've made out of PowerPoint, but there's actually 3 changes. The first change you'll make is you want to look for your integrated graphics. This is for your hard drive and your SATA drives. You want to make sure you have it set to AHCI. That's so your motherboard will recognize your hard drive, or Windows will. If you don't do this, then the only other setting, I don't know why they still have it in there. Hardly anybody has these kind of setups anymore, but they still have an IDE controller in there, and you want to have the AHCI, so make sure that's changed before you start installing your operating system. You also want to set your RAM profile up. If you don't, your motherboard will revert back to the default settings of 1333. You don't want that, because well, you've got 1333 RAM, you do, but if your RAM is 16 megahertz, you'll want your RAM to run at 16 megahertz, not at 1333. To do that, you'll go into where you find your RAM settings, and you want to make sure that it's set to profile 1, and that will ensure that your RAM is running at a specified speed, which is 16 or 1866 or 2133, whatever your RAM that you bought is specified to run. And the last thing you need to change is you need to change your boot order, and you can find that, and that's usually on your home page on your BIOS system. You need to change it. You can do that by putting you want to make sure your CD drive is being recognized first when you boot up, so it'll change to or set up your operating system. You want it to boot into your operating system first, and then after you've made those changes, you need to save those changes and exit the BIOS. And remember, after you get through installing all this stuff on your computer, you want to go back into your BIOS and change your boot order back to, I mean, it'll run without it being changed back, but I always like to change it back to where you're booting straight to where your hard drive is located, which is on mine will be the SSD. But anyway, then you're ready. And when you're in there, don't be afraid to look around in there and see how things are set up, because if you ever want to go into your BIOS and make changes, you'll know wherever you kind of get an idea to feel around how everything's set up in there. So have fun while you're in there. Don't worry, you can't really hurt anything. Just don't make changes in there unless you know what you're doing. Okay, now we're getting down to after you've got all this stuff installed. This is really up to you what you're going to do from here on out. This is, if you want to go on there and look online and look for all these places, you can. But I think I've done the research for you, and these, you can't go wrong with these programs. I've been, like I say, 6 months I've running now, no problems. For my security, I chose Bitdefender. It's a free version. And the thing I like about this program, I don't like Norton's, and I'll tell you why. Because they are a computer hog. They hog your memory. They bog your computer down. They're always constantly finding updates and running in the background. But that's my opinion. Like I said, some people love Norton's, and it's not a bad program. It's just I just don't like it because it takes it's always running in the background. Bitdefender, you never see this program until you get something on your computer you don't want to have there, and it will pop up and tell you that Bitdefender just blocked something from installing on your computer that you don't want. It's probably the best malware blocker on the market. I've not seen anything. I've used several different ones. I've used AVG, I've used McAfee, and I've used Norton's. By far, Bitdefender beats all of them hands down. You can't go wrong with it. They do have a paid version. I download a lot of my stuff like this from a site called CNET. It's an excellent site for downloading this type software. I suggest you go there if you want to download anything. Now for your optimizer and cleaner, I chose CC Cleaner. I really like this program. I've been using it since I had my Dell computer, and this thing is just unbelievably easy and quick to use. I chose a free version. They do have a paid version of this. Just remember that when you do install the free version, that it doesn't run automatically. It doesn't tell you when you need to use it. You have to choose that yourself. So you'll have to click on it whenever you want it to clean files off your computer. But I suggest you get this. You'll never look back once you got this on your computer. It's the best optimizer you'll find, and it's free. Uninstaller, Revo uninstaller, is free also. It says it's all in itself. It's fast, and it uninstalls unwanted programs on your computer better than anything else on the market. This thing will dig down to the last file attachment anywhere located on your computer and get rid of it. Once you delete a program off using Revo installer, you don't see any traces anywhere of it. I suggest that you get this. They do have a paid version, and I have been thinking about getting the paid versions on all three of these. I just haven't made that move yet. But if you're going to get 3 programs, these are only 3 I have installed on my computer, and it is nothing but just excellent. Gives my computer nothing but excellent performance at all times. And finally, here's my computer after I finished with it. I hope you enjoy your computer as much as I do mine, and I hope this video has helped you. I hope you watch more of my videos, subscribe to my channel, and there's more stuff out there that I've got. I'm not doing this to make any money. I'm doing this because I went through a lot of stuff to learn this, and I hope that you get something out of this, and maybe it'll help you when you're building your computer. Thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful day.